The White House says President Trump will likely sign an executive order on police reform tomorrow. We don't have any details, though, about what is going to be included in that. Joining me now is Marissa Renee Lee. She serves as managing director of My Brother's Keeper, the alliance formed during the Obama administration. We're so glad you could be here. And before we get to you, I just want to read people some of your powerful words and why we hoped you could join us. You write, quote, "I decided a long time ago that grief is really just another form of love. Black people are grieving right now, so find ways to show them you love them." Tell me about why it was so important for you in this moment in this country to write about grief and why we're not talking about it enough.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, though, I do have to correct. I'm the former managing director of My Brother's Keeper Alliance. I don't want to take that job away from my dear friend and former colleague, Michael Smith. But
fair enough, and thank you for that.
No problem. I felt like it was really important for me to write about grief in this moment because I woke up one morning and I was so sad and felt so anxious myself. And I knew from my experiences, having lost my mom and more recently having lost a pregnancy, that what I was experiencing was grief. And then I took a step back to think about it and I realized, you know, African Americans in this country have literally been carrying this grief for hundreds of years. And this place that we're in right now, where, you know, you showed some folks in the streets in Atlanta and people are calling for the police to be defunded and, you know, folks are really showing their pain. And I think we need to give a moment to acknowledge that pain. You know, I know from my experiences with grief and loss, if you don't give your grief space, if you don't take the time to properly heal, you're not going to make it successfully to the other side as a complete person.
You know, to your point, you say, I know that all of you agree that what has happened is horribly unfair, but most of you don't also have to carry the grief that those of us with black skin have to figure out how to navigate during these times. And you write, I am exhausted by it. What can people do to help their friends, their black friends who are experiencing this grief that I can't understand that grief, right? But how can we be most helpful?
That's a great question, and I really appreciate it. And in my work around grief and loss, you know, one of the things that I always say is that the worst thing you can do is nothing. Because again, I know from my experience having lost a parent, you know, there were definitely people who said things that maybe weren't the perfect thing, but you don't remember that as much as you remember the people who didn't say or do anything when you were suffering. So I think it's a combination of finding a way to show up authentically for the Black people who are in your life. You know, if one of your close friends, family members, etc., is a Black person right now, make sure you're thoughtfully checking in on them. Make sure you're thinking about ways to make their life easier. You know, so many people have shown up for me these last few weeks, whether it's been to send a really thoughtful card or a cute care package or steps that, you know, white people have taken to help advance my career and provide opportunities. You know, those things matter. And then I think once we're outside of this immediate grief moment, figuring out how you're going to use your privilege, as my friend Baratunde Thurston says, as a superpower. You know, people who are walking around in white skin need to think about how they are going to use their position in the world to make it better for the rest of us.
You worked in the Obama administration. Before we go, do you believe that this is the moment where the Senate and the House will be able to actually meet on something, agree on some sort of police reform package that the president will sign and follow in, you know, the form we saw with criminal justice reform? Will this happen, or will the sides be too divided?
That's a tough question. You know, I think we are in a unique moment. I certainly am in a place now where I have hope for our future and hope for real racial reconciliation and healing. But I don't think the current bill gets us there. You know, Poppy, if your house was on fire would you ask the person who set the fire to help you put it out? You know, the fact that the current bill allocates even more funding to law enforcement to fix a problem that they've helped to create just doesn't make sense to me.
Marissa, I appreciate you being here. I hope people read your words in your CNN.com opinion piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.